Stop listening to the bombastic loudmouths on the radio and television and the internet. To hell with them. Let's trust each other. Let's return to regular order. We've been spinning our wheels on too many important issues because we keep trying to find a way to win without help from across the aisle.
Senator McCain did reach across the aisle, sharing bipartisan bonds with Democrats, including Senator Ted Kennedy, former Vice President Joe Biden, and my next guest, Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, who served in the Senate with McCain for nearly 8 years. The two traveled to dozens of countries together, most recently co-sponsoring immigration reform legislation. Senator Coons, thanks so much for being with us. I got to ask, I mean, you come from a different generation than Senator McCain. What's it like to walk, or what was it like to walk onto the Senate floor that first time, look across the aisle and see, hey, that's John McCain, and I'm here with him?
Initially, I found it hugely intimidating, frankly, to try and spend time talking with Senator McCain and explaining my views, defending my views about foreign policy. Here's someone who was the Armed Services Chairman, a 6-term senator, and I already knew, obviously, his story of service and sacrifice in Vietnam. So, literally from the day I was sworn in, I found it somewhat challenging to see myself as belonging on the same floor and the same stage as someone like Senator McCain. But he was incredibly kind personally. I'll never forget when my twin boys came on a class trip. I'd just been a senator a few months, and they recognized him. And he took 10 minutes and stopped and was kind and funny and engaging with this whole group of kids from a school here in Delaware. He was that kind of a man. He was capable of being gruff and demanding and difficult in public, but he was also capable of being funny and kind and thoughtful. He took time for members of our armed forces, for family members who came by, and he could be very gracious.
And you had a chance to work with him, and you had a chance to travel with him. And I know you had the chance to go with him to Vietnam, and that must have been a powerful experience.
It was. We spent 4 days together in Hanoi. We went to the prison where he was a prisoner of war for 5.5 years, and it was a very somber visit. He took a whole group of us through the prison and talked about his experiences in real detail. We later had a whole series of meetings with Vietnamese leaders, and it was clear just the admiration, the near reverence that the Vietnamese people and their leaders held him in because of how hard he had worked to bridge that gulf, to heal some of the wounds of war, and to reconcile the United States to Vietnam. That's one of the biggest lasting legacies of Senator McCain, was that he never stopped trying to find ways to work with people, even if they'd been opponents. I'll remind you that eulogies will be delivered by former Vice President Biden, by former President Bush, his opponent in the 2000 primaries, and former President Obama, his opponent in the 2008 campaign. That tireless work to bridge divides was one of the things that most impressed me about this great man.
Well, is it gone forever? I have to tell you, I've been sitting here this morning, and I'm skeptical that that kind of bipartisan force and presence can be replaced. I'm skeptical that there's a will to replace it.
Well, I think that's his challenge to us, that we in the Senate need to work harder to find ways and times to put party behind country, to put country first, that we need to travel in a bipartisan way. Every trip I've done since my first trip with Senator McCain has been bipartisan, that we need to put some of the tools down and be less interested in fundraising and approval ratings and, frankly, time on cable, and be more interested in getting to know each other as people. When I heard Senator McCain give his Liberty Medal acceptance speech, it was just after Vice President Biden had introduced him. It was here in Philadelphia. And the lesson I took from that was these two great men really knew each other. They knew each other's families. They'd visited each other's states. And I've challenged a group of senators to start showing that we can do the same thing today.
You could really hear it in both their voices. Same with Ted Kennedy. Same when Senator McCain would talk about Ted Kennedy. They liked each other. They genuinely liked each other. Yeah. Doesn't mean they liked their ideas. They fought like cats and dogs over the issues for decades, but you can still like each other and you can still find areas to make progress. One of the things that struck me about Senator McCain, too, when we talk about his incredible sacrifice in the military, his legacy as the son of an admiral, the grandson of an admiral, to me, where he felt most comfortable, where he was at his genuine happiness, was in the Senate. It was working alongside people like you. He really seemed to love it there.
That's right. He was a Senate man. He deeply believed in the Senate, and he kept reminding us over and over that we are the equal of the president, of the executive branch, and that in our constitutional order, it's our job to stand up to the president when he overreaches, to be independent, and to reach our own decisions and conclusions as the Senate, as a body, rather than just, fighting endlessly in partisan gridlock. One of the things that hasn't gotten a lot of attention this year is that for the first time in my 8 years there, our appropriations process is actually following a so-called regular order. It's moving in the way that John was challenging us 2 months ago. We will come close to or actually finish a full appropriations process for the first time in a decade. Look, there's tons of partisan sniping and pointless, endless fighting in the Senate right now. It's depressing. But there are moments when we make progress. And I think Senator McCain will be sorely missed because he was one of the strongest voices for us to find ways to work together across the aisle.
Thank you for reminding us of the moments where there is that progress here, because it should be noted. I assume you would vote yes on any move to rename the Russell Senate Office Building after Senator McCain.
Absolutely. I think it's a deserved honor. He loved not just the Senate, but actually the building that we have our offices in. And he was someone who, while he didn't seek that kind of visible recognition, I think it is an appropriate way to remember him. I also think we should do more to make national service possible. Whether civilian or military, it's a great way for young people in this country to gain skills, to learn what it means to be American, to serve our country, and to gain the resources to go to college. Senator McCain and I talked about this a number of times, how he thought we should make a post-high school 2-year period of national service an expectation for young Americans. And right now it's not possible. There's hundreds of thousands of young people who want to serve in the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps, Teach for America, City Year, and there just aren't the spaces, the support for that. That's something I intend to work on in John's honor in the months ahead.
Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, thanks for being with us and sharing your memories. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Allison.
Okay, so the Maverick senator from Arizona had a special bond with